Prime Minister Modi at the G7, Donald Trump in the audience, and a message about rebuilding trust. That is what happened at the G7 summit. The G7, as we know, is a club of advanced global economies. It comprises the world's 7 major advanced industrialized democracies: the US, Canada, the UK, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Even though India is not a member of the G7, it has been invited to the forum for several years because it is a major global power with growing influence, a key geopolitical player, the world's most populous country, and a rising economy. So Mr. Modi represented India at the G7 summit. There he talked about forging new partnerships and rebuilding international solidarity, which is quite important and is our topic of discussion today. The highlight of the Prime Minister's address was the statement that mutual trust is the most important asset today. Currently, it is evident that the world is facing a growing trust deficit. We are witnessing geopolitical rivalries, conflicts, trade wars, sanctions, a lot of disinformation and fake news, international agreements being broken, rising political polarization, and growing economic uncertainty. All of this is contributing to the growing trust deficit in the world. Trust, the very foundation of international relations, is shaking. Because of this, decades of built-up international systems are fracturing. And this is where rebuilding trust matters. Because if nations trust each other, they'll be able to address shared challenges together. During times of crisis, countries with mutual trust can cooperate together and seek solutions together. On the other hand, a lack of trust contributes to conflicts, arms races, and chaos, which we are seeing in the world today. Nations are going to war over disputes and disagreements. That multiplies the trust deficit. What reduces the trust deficit is dialogue. Lasting solutions to tensions and conflicts can be achieved only through dialogue, diplomacy, and international cooperation. Trust matters. Today, the world is more interconnected and interdependent than ever before. In such a world, trust is critical for global supply chains. Modern products are made across multiple countries. They may be designed in one country, raw materials might be procured from somewhere else, and manufacturing may take place in a third country. That is the present reality. Obviously, such a system only works when countries trust one another. When trust declines, countries start seeking self-sufficiency and supply chains begin fragmenting. Strategic rivalry among countries creates suspicion, leads to economic nationalism, and causes countries to prioritize domestic interests over international cooperation. Technological competition starts increasing. Tell me whether you see it happening or not. Today, when the world is interconnected, nations' growth, security, and prosperity are not solely determined within their own borders. Cooperation is essential. And for that reason, trust becomes extremely valuable. Trust takes years or even decades to build and may be destroyed in days. That is why it must be treated as one of the rarest and most valuable strategic resources. In the present day and age, mobility, data, capital, and technology bind us together. Therefore, partnerships are important. And what lies at the core of the partnerships? Nothing but trust. That is why mutual trust is the most important asset today. The Indian perspective emphasizes the importance of trust-based partnerships. That is why you would have noticed India emphasizing respect for sovereignty, strategic autonomy, reliability in cooperation, responsibility, and predictability, all of which form the foundation of healthy relationships and sustainable cooperation. On the global stage, a country's influence depends on whether other countries trust it. One way to build trust is to use technology and supply chains for the global good. The weaponization of supply chains weakens trust. Mr. Modi raised this important point in his address. India's position is that development opportunities must be available to all nations rather than being confined to a select few. That is paramount for building trust. Further, global institutions must be capable of fulfilling the aspirations of all countries. We do not find that happening at present. Global institutions were created with the goal of preventing conflict, promoting cooperation, and ensuring prosperity for all. They were expected to create a fair and stable international order, but they haven't managed to do so. Today, the economic and demographic center of gravity has shifted toward Asia and the global south. Yet, decision-making power in many global institutions has not changed proportionately. India is not a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, and neither Africa nor Latin America has permanent representation. This unequal distribution of power creates a trust deficit. Nations naturally feel excluded from important decisions affecting global peace and security. The voice of the global south remains abysmally underrepresented. Policies are often designed according to the interests of the powerful nations. Therefore, to generate trust, the development priorities of global south countries must receive sufficient attention. Global institutions need to be democratic in practice. At present, many of them remain highly unequal and undemocratic, which contributes to declining trust in them. It damages the confidence in the system. Without trust, there will only be deadlock and double standards in international system. Collective action will suffer and crisis will continue. In the last century, the international community witnessed 2 world wars. After the devastation they caused, the global community developed systems aimed at promoting peace, stability and prosperity. And what is the foundation of these systems? Nothing but trust. Sadly, it is being undermined today. Power matters more than principles. There is different treatment of conflicts in different regions. There are unequal responses to violations of international law. A handful of powerful nations and corporations are shaping rules for the entire planet. This undermines trust in global governance and in the rules-based international order. Since India acts as a bridge between developed and developing countries, it is a powerful voice of the global South. Therefore, India's participation in discussions on critical international issues makes those discussions more credible and effective. At the G7 summit, India continued to advocate for the global South. It used the platform to deliver the message of prioritizing partnership over dependency. Nations need to move beyond the donor-recipient mindset and work as equal partners. In other words, partnerships must be rooted in dignity rather than dependency. India views the world as one family. During the pandemic, when vaccine nationalism was at its peak and wealthy countries were rushing to secure supplies for themselves, India demonstrated exceptional global solidarity. It sent medicines and vaccines to over 150 countries. On the other hand, many wealthy nations ordered enough vaccines to cover their populations several times over. So we saw that there was no shortage of resources, but rather a shortage of trust. Instead of helping one another, many governments prioritized domestic needs and imposed export restrictions on essential equipment and medical supplies. In times of crisis, even close allies competed against one another, diverted shipments, and tried to outbid each other. What does this show? A trust deficit. And that made coordinated global action more difficult. The global system is only as strong as the willingness of member nations to cooperate. We must stick together. Cooperation needs to be strengthened, not disappear during times of crisis. We often talk about globalization and a connected world. But the lack of trust has exposed the fragility of globalization. Nations are connected through global maritime trade. Yet, what did we see during the West Asia crisis? We failed to secure maritime routes. We failed to ensure the safety of civilians. Shipping lanes were blocked. Ships were threatened. Global energy security suffered. And economic disruption became a real possibility. Shared global responsibility vanished. All these experiences point to the fact that trust is of paramount importance in contemporary geopolitics, diplomacy, and international cooperation.